Welcome to Paso a Paso, Immigration Help with Steve Miller.
You're listening to Step by Step, Immigration Help with Steve Miller. Steve is the founding attorney of Affordable Immigration, where he helps families across the U.S. and Latin America get legal status and stay together. I'm Heidi Mack, and today we're talking about two powerful immigration protections, VAWA and the U Visa, options for survivors of abuse or serious crime. This episode is VAWA and U Visas, help for the survivors of abuse or crime. Thank you for joining us, Steve, and thank you so much for bringing your associate here. Please introduce yourselves.
Yeah, I'm Steve Miller. I'm the founding attorney, and this is Yanira Plazas. She's been with me 16 years. She's the senior paralegal, and behind every good attorney, there's a good paralegal, and that's sure in this case.
Thank you. Thank you, Heidi, for allowing us to be here. And I'm glad that we're able to talk about VAWA and U Visas, which is a very good programs that a lot of people aren't aware of.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming back and letting us know all this pertinent information. So let's get started. Let's start with the VAWA. What does it stand for, and who qualifies to apply under the law?
VAWA stands for the Violence Against Women Act, and it's not just for women, but it's also for men also and for children. It allows certain individuals who have experienced abuse at the hands of a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident to self-petition for legal status without the abuser's knowledge or consent. And this is one of this is one of the most meaningful things that I've done, and I'm sure Anita also, in my legal career and in our practice here, we've been helping these victims of violence since the beginning of this practice here, and it's been very meaningful to help them because there's nothing like seeing the joy on their face when they end up with a green card after all that trouble and all that abuse they've gone through. So it's very important to me and to us as a group. What do you want to tell more about it, Anita?
Yeah, so to begin with, to qualify for VAWA, there's three ways, right? One is if you are married. So if you're married to a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident, and then throughout your marriage you were abused, right? So we'll explain a little bit about what abuse means in this context here in a little bit. Or if you are an unmarried child under 21 who was also abused by their lawful permanent resident parent or U.S. citizen parent. The third option is parents who have been abused by their children as well, who are U.S. citizens or lawful permanent residents. The children themselves have to be over 21 to qualify as the parents, right? Because the children are abusing the parents. It's the cutoff, or I guess to begin with that age is you have to be over 21 and over for them.
Does somebody need a police report or conviction to qualify for VAWA?
No, actually, a police report or conviction is not required, but it could be helpful, of course, yes, to qualify for VAWA. But if there is no conviction or police report, then the applicants need to provide credible evidence about the abuse that they experienced. It could be personal affidavits, medical records, probably therapy records, but there needs to be some records, needs to be some proof, because you don't want to just put an application in based on just hearsay. So there needs to be some records, photographs of injuries, statements from witnesses. So there is a standard. There's not a high standard of proof that's required, but there's some proof required that there has been extreme cruelty experienced. So so you don't have to have a police report, but you just have to have a way of proving that something did happen, some violence. Yes.
Yeah, I think we've also included records from doctors and medical professionals, because obviously an applicant might feel more safe, right, divulging this information to a medical expert. And so that is strong enough, right? Because it's one thing to have the applicant write a declaration detailing her or his abuse, but then the secondary evidence of a medical professional, they give more credibility to that. So it's just case by case scenario, to be honest. That's why when we screen our phone calls, we always ask clients, right? We're very sincere, and we're very honest about their possibility, which again, in these type of cases, we understand that it's hard to even make that call. So we try to walk with them since the beginning of this process all the way to the end, because we understand that not only are they probably putting their life in danger by even making a call, but we are also trying to help them, overcome this. And then we also try to provide them with different agencies that can also provide them with shelter or food, security, because each case, like I said, it's very different. And so we love, I mean, I personally love doing this, because not only are you making a difference in one person's life, but it's usually a family. And I mean, that's our founding mission, is to help families in any way that we can with regards to immigration.
And like I said, there's really nothing that compares to meeting a person who's been a victim of violence, and they've been beaten down through the years. That they've experienced horrible things, and then to experience the joy in their face and when they get their green card, because they never expected that anything good would happen to them. But here, this is really happening for a lot of people, and it's something that's really uniquely beautiful, actually, to see that joy.
I appreciate, the things that you're doing right now. So, we've talked about, the VAWA application. Let's move on to the U visa as well. How is it different? Like, what is it comparably?
Well, with the U visa, you need to have the involvement of law enforcement. So, number one, you have to be the victim of a qualifying crime. And now, it doesn't have to be a crime by a citizen or by a permanent resident. It can be a crime by someone who is an immigrant also and has no status, which it very often is. And it has to be a qualifying crime. And very often, there's a wide range of crimes. Domestic violence is the one that we experience the most, and those are the ones we really look forward to helping, because we know they've been through a lot, and they need our kindness and our compassion. So they need to have suffered a qualifying crime, and then they have to have actually cooperated with the authorities, like the law enforcement, the police, or the district attorney, in the investigation or in the prosecution of the crime. Now, it's not always that a victim of domestic violence has to go to court and testify. Very often, the district attorney will say, "Now we know what's happening. We don't need you to testify," so that's okay. And then the third part of that is you have to be able to prove that you've suffered a substantial physical or mental abuse. And for victims of domestic violence, it's usually a long trail. It's like not just a one-time event that they've experienced before they finally get help. So that very often it pretty much solves itself very much, where they go to see a therapist and they explain what they've been through and they get therapy help. That usually satisfies that third branch there of the investigation. But Anita, you want to say more?
Yeah, I think that throughout the investigation, the applicant also needs to continue helping, right? Because some agencies, some law enforcements are not as helpful as others, because they're afraid, right, that the victim might either not cooperate, for one, they're feared, or two, they're just unsure, right? They're unsure of the possibility of what could happen to them, because people come from different backgrounds, right? And so their country, they don't feel like filing a police report made a difference. So why would they do it here, right? And so we try to explain to them that, look, filing a police report, cooperating with authorities is only going to help your case, right? It's only giving you this credibility that you are willing to help and aid in the investigation and provide justice, right? Because, like I mentioned, many clients come from countries where justice isn't served, even though you file a police report. So, contrary to those countries, in the United States, it's much different, right? And so we try to explain to them what that is, and again, walking with them step by step and explaining to this is what's going to be happening, and luckily, the government has created these safeguards for clients that allows them to provide like their mail, like a safe mailing address, right? Which I always explain to my clients. I said, look, when you file for your paperwork, you won't ever officially receive anything in the mail, because one, maybe they're still with the abuser, right? And obviously, we don't want the abuser to know that they're filing for this benefit. And then second is We usually as the law firm receive this information on their behalf, and then we can usually call them or have them pick it up again. Why? Because we're trying to provide them with this saved and legal process in obtaining this benefit.
How long is the wait time for U visas? And you were also talking about like a safe mailing address. Are there other protections that exist during this wait?
This program is very good and it's very helpful to a lot of people. However, there's been a limit of 10,000 per year get approved. So right now we're seeing people who filed for U visa in 2017 finally get their 4-year U visa. So after the 4-year U visa, then they're allowed to adjust status and get their green card in 3 years. So the process is taking time. So 2017 till now, that's usually 8 years, and that could get worse actually because only 10,000 a year are approved and more than 10,000 people a year are applying. So, but in the meantime, there's good news because there's the good faith.
Bona fide work permit. Yeah.
Talk about that, Anita.
Yeah. So usually, when we file the work permit, a client can get what's called a bona fide work permit, right? So what the U visa in itself, like I always tell my clients, it's not your permanent residency. It will lead to that eventually, but what it is, it's a temporary work permit that protects you from deportation, right? Um, Hopefully that still continues with this administration. I always tell my clients, look, you are applying for this benefit. You always have to maintain yourself with good moral character standing. I said, if you go ahead and commit a crime, even if you have this, it won't protect you, right? So it's your responsibility to maintain this benefit, right? But yeah, so when we follow the U visa, we follow the paperwork, and then they usually receive, or we receive the copy of the notices, and then I tell my clients, maintain a copy of this notice with you, right? Because you're not getting the work permit quite yet. You're just getting an official notice saying that you filed a benefit with the government. And so we always try to tell them, in case you're in a situation where there's an ICE presence, you can show them this document, right? Because yes, the U visa and VAWA are both protections against removal, so against immigration court, right? And so once we file the U visa, in about can take anywhere from 1 year to 4 years for them to receive their bona fide work permit. What does that mean? That means like they're kind of like pre-approved. So they get a work permit valid for 4 years, and then you can renew it within another 4 years. And so with that, they can get their work permit, the social security number, and they're eligible to work in the United States. And like I've told them, this U visa takes anywhere from 8 to 10 years, but at least this work permit allows you to stay here and work and financially support yourself and your family, which sometimes is the biggest obstacle in applying for a U visa, is because one, how do they get out of an abusive relationship if they are reliant, right, on their abuser for financial support? But with this program, like I said, it allows them to not only leave the abuser, but they can also work eventually, and then it protects them against removal proceedings.
One thing about this program is it's the knowledge of this possibility is not that great out there, and so we experience a lot of people don't know about. They've been the victim of a crime of domestic violence, and they didn't know about it, that it was possibly lead to a green card. So it's important for people to be knowledgeable and just to be a good neighbor, and like for your family members to be able to tell your family members if they're going through something like this, if they're experiencing domestic violence, they need to get to a shelter. And talk to social service people. We have a great organization here in Salem. It's called the Center for Hope and Safety, and they help a lot of people who've been victims. And they put them in the right path, and they support them, and they stand beside them in every way. So if you're a victim of violence, don't be afraid to report it or just find help if if in any way possible, because if you can report it and find support, don't just put up with it year after year. I'm saying try to make some progress and report it, talk to social services, get help, and then possibly apply for a U visa.
Yeah, and then like the VAWA, For a U visa, the abuser doesn't have to have any type of legal status. So they don't have to be a US citizen or a permanent resident, right? I have many cases where it's just a live-in boyfriend who has no status. And so the fact that they're living together, that the domestic violence occurred when they were living together, that alone helps them qualify for a U visa. I think another challenge in applicants applying for a U visa too is they might have entered the United States more than once. They might have brought their children to the United States, which in other types of immigration cases, yes, it would bar them from obtaining an immigration benefit. But with the U visa, it's a very generous program that forgives all of that, right? And in some scenarios, I mean, I've had clients where it's not only let's just say the mom, but it's also the kids who are in the United States that she may have brought illegally, and then kids abroad that were able to immigrate as well with this U visa benefit, which, like we said, right, it can take a long time. But at the end, I mean, you're finally able to reunite with your family and your children, which is, money in this situation wasn't a bar, right? Because we were able to reunite them.
Well, it sounds like even if it's a long process, that both of these visa applications are well worth it. And I hope people come to you and seek your help. So, with that being said, thank you for joining us on Step by Step. If you or someone you love has suffered abuse or been a victim of a serious crime, there may be a legal path to safety. Steve and his team at Affordable Immigration offer free consultations to explain your options. Visit immigratenw.com or call 971 308 5892 to speak with someone you can trust. And don't forget to like, follow, and share this episode with someone who might need it. Thank you so much for joining us again, Steve and Anita. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We really appreciate this possibility.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.